The worst thing you could do is put me on a fucking pedestal. I can tell you that now. Listen, it's lovely to see you all, and I'm so glad you came. What a shitty thing to do to cancel the event before we actually got to do it. But it's not anything new, and it's the kind of thing that we expect to see all the time. I want to run some theories past you and see whether or not anybody thinks I'm making any damn sense. So, with your permission, I'm going to do that. Is there anybody in the room here that's got a mobile phone? That was a silly question, wasn't it? Hey, everybody's got one now. Now let me give you a scenario. You get up in the morning and you open your eyes, and if you're old enough, you reach for your glasses, and if you're young enough, if you're not young enough, you bounce out of bed, and if you're old enough, you roll out of bed, and you stand up and you put your glasses on, or not, and you pick up your phone and you start looking. Sound familiar to anybody? Right? And before you know it, you're into the routine of the day, whether that takes place when you get up or when you go to breakfast, and you start looking through stuff and going, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not engaging with that, but I will engage with that. No, I'll look at that later. I'll look at that later. No, I'll look at that later. Right? And later, that never comes. Right? Which is why we've all got completely unorganised bookmarks. Yeah. Right, what was it I was looking for? This is the first bookmark of 35,000. Oh, right, okay. So we do this thing where we collect information, but actually we're doing nothing with it, generally, as a rule of thumb. Eventually that leads you down, and I always think about the story of the great Dr. Oliver Sacks, who worked on a program whereby he managed to bring people who've been in comas for years back to life. You may have seen it in the film Awakenings. And he likened their particular illness to a Parkinson's that made you eventually freeze into a still statue-like nothingness. And I think that's what this is doing to us. I think eventually we are stuck into a routine of like or dislike, right? Storing the information for later. We have become less livers of our lives than we have creators of the information that surrounds us from the minute we get up. And that's where I think we are. And in order to do something about that, I've designed what's called the Warrior Teacher Program, which some people here are about to take part in. So I'm looking forward to getting started. So let me tell you why I think it's an issue. When I was a young man, when I was a child, I wasn't the easiest of children, as you can imagine, but my mum would take me to the zoo or wherever the hell else it was she took me, and she'd say to me, all right, I'm going to be here by the ice cream van. Go and watch the monkey pick his nose or whatever it is he's going to do and feed the sea lions. And off I'd go and wander around, and I'd see all these things, and I'd come back and she'd go, what did you see? Well, I saw the sea lions and I saw the tigers, and I ended up working at that zoo, weirdly enough. I saw the tigers and I saw the gorillas and all the stuff that comes with it. Now, most of us will have that kind of memory. Would that be fair to say? Yeah. Whatever it may have been, it's the kind of thing that would have happened, right? And another way that you can deal with a child is to treat it like Pavlov's dogs. Who knows the story of Pavlov's dogs? Right? You ring the bell, the dog salivates, it eats the food. Yep. If all this information surrounds us and we are crippled by it, like I say we are, and paralysed into a stance of doing nothing, then surely the answer to that is to become teachers. And if we are surrounded by information constantly, it means that we all have to become teachers of each other. So we all become teachers and we all become students. Because the fight that we are fighting against what the guys have already talked about, the wokery and nonsense of these ridiculous bumfumblers, most of them, right? What we have to do is we have to become better teachers for ourselves. We become what are called warrior teachers. Now, anybody here who's done a PGCE will tell you that there are two ways that you can be a teacher at the very base level. So if you were going to become a teacher, let's pick someone. If you were going to become a teacher, do you have any wishes to become a teacher?
Definitely not.
What are you going to be when you grow up?
Hopefully Prime Minister.
Prime Minister? I'm definitely there for that. Left or right? Yeah. Left or right? Yes.
Right.
That's a political answer if there was one.
On the right.
Thank you so much. But yes, if you're going to be a teacher, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision whether you believe that the people that will be in front of you that you will teach are Pavlov's dogs, or whether they are the person that would go wandering around the zoo to discover for themselves. And that's known as your orientation for learning. That's known as what you as a teacher will use as your predominant philosophy for teaching others. You either think they're Pavlov's dogs, in which case you will nudge and tweak and push them whichever way you can, or you think that they are capable of their own learning, in which case you might provide a framework and off they'd go on a voyage of discovery, much like visiting the zoo when I was a child. This is a simple choice to make. And there isn't anybody I've ever told that to who doesn't say, oh, I'm a humanist. They all say it because they don't want to be seen to be the behaviourist, and yet we live in a world dominated by the behaviourist orientation to learning to such an extent that you get up every morning and you sit there going, like or dislike. I'll look at that later, no I won't. So we have to ask ourselves the question, has technology caused that? Or is technology responding to something that's been caused elsewhere? We've already had mentioned today the duplicity of the Americans in the current state of affairs, right? But that's not just where it is. I mean, it has come from America, admittedly, but the truth of the matter is that in universities now, this is what they do. They use behaviourist methods of teaching, as a behaviourist orientation to teaching, as the base level, right? So that's their philosophy is, you need to be nudged to be the way that they think you should be. You don't have autonomy, right? The television does that too. Personally, I blame Challenge 25. I think it all started there. When 16-year-olds get pissed, you heard less of them talking about gender. So I think the idea is we're seeing this particular type of behaviourist orientation going right through society. Now this gets even worse. There's also a thing in teaching, if you're all going to become teachers, you're going to need to know this, called Bloom's Taxonomy. You remember this?
I think I slipped through it.
Did you?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, you missed child abuse, so I'm not surprised you miss everything. Right, so... How American. Right, so this taxonomy, which is essentially, it says that we all learn in a particular way. So you know something, right? It's like 2 + 2 = 4, right? We all know that. You ask somebody the question why, and they go, duh. Because they don't know why 2 + 2 = 4, so they know it, but they don't understand it. So Bloom's taxonomy goes know, understand, synthesize, analyze, evaluate, create. Right? So it's designed to take somebody from understand something at the very base level and then to become an expert in that particular thing. Around the end of the mid-90s, in teaching, across universities and across school in this country, they changed Bloom's taxonomy and they removed the two most important bits, which was evaluate and judge, which are right at the top. The ability of you to take what you've learned, evaluate and judge it, and then to create something from it. They took them out and they replaced them with the word activism. They replaced it with the word activism. And this teaching module that's being used in universities is called the COM-BB teaching model. And it was designed by Susan Michie, the second in command of the Communist Party, who has just been given a plum job at the World Health Organization. Right? So once you start to look, you can't avoid seeing the connections between these things. So I'll leave you with my last statement, which is you all need to become warrior teachers, because we can change legislation, but this is going nowhere fast. We can get Parliament to make laws that will stop them, but this is going nowhere fast. And every conversation you have moving forward should be as a warrior teacher, because every person that you meet is another antibody to fight an infection that is cultural, not political. It is cultural, not political. Now, people talk about the Overton window. Well, I have what I call the wall window, which I made up myself, right? And on one side, you've got humanist orientation. On the other side, you've got behaviourist orientation. And in the middle, you've got people that know what they're doing, essentially, that can navigate both sides. It's time that the adults got back in the room, and in a world that is steeped in information, that is absolutely critical that we have time to learn, and we have time to learn regularly. Although podcasts have provided an opportunity for that, that's a true revolution. I think that we all need to become warrior teachers, and by default, we all need to become warrior students. Thank you very much.